All right. So I'm Jillian. I'm 28 years old. I've been estranged from my mom since I was about 15. Um, it wasn't always like that. Like we weren't always super distant. She was my best friend when I was little. We traveled the country together. We did we did everything together. She was my best friend. And when I was about 5 or 7, 5, whatever, she met a man that she just absolutely fell in love with, and that's when things began to change. She kind of sculpted her world around him, and he became incredibly abusive throughout like my childhood, and I had this undying urge to protect my mom because she was sick, and I thought that if I could take the brunt of this, if I could be strong for her, then, maybe he wouldn't hurt her. Maybe they would stop fighting so much. So the burden of kind of protection, I took that on because I didn't want to see her hurt. She was really, really fragile. We began to drift apart and fight a lot more. I mean, I suspect that happens a lot in like everybody's teenage years with their mom. You kind of start to butt heads, and your mom's never right at that point. Um, and then as things progressed, he became more and more like physically and emotionally abusive until one night he made like an attempt on my life. And my mom had throughout the time promised me that every single fight that she would leave him and things would go back to the way that they were. And I continued to believe that. But in my search for acceptance, I failed to see her search for acceptance. And she was just as scared as I was, looking for somebody to choose her, while I was also looking for somebody to choose me as well. Um, Once he made the attempt on my life, my mom left, and everything seemed like it was going to be incredible, amazing. Like we were going to have such an amazing time together, and like things were going to go back to how they used to be. Until one day she went back to talk to him, and I asked her, can I come home? Like, can we come get you? And she said that we needed to talk as a family. I was about 15 years old at this time. And that's when I realized, like, this is not a family that I want to be a part of. Like, this is not a family that I can choose to be a part of if I'm going to survive into my adulthood. I was already at that point just contemplating how much longer I could continue living like this. So I decided to go home and face her. And I told her that if this is what her idea of a family was, that I didn't want to be a part of it. That I understand now why it angered my mom, but it angered her so much. And she said some really, really mean things in the hurt. One of the last things that my mom had said to me out of anger was that she wished she had aborted me. And that was kind of the final straw where I cut contact, and I couldn't continue to carry the burden of not only myself in my like pubescent era and all these like emotions I was already feeling, and also continue to carry her emotions. So I know that she tried to contact me for years and years. We've spent about 6 years estranged before she died, a week before my birthday, and I was so angry at her. It felt like her one last slight to me, because I was on vacation. I was going to be 21, and now you've missed this milestone too. And so like I let the anger and the hurt build because it felt so good to just remain angry and keep blaming her for everything, not see any of her side, just only see my side selfishly, and being able to justify why I was so angry all the time just really was amazing. And it felt right at the time, and it was so self-destructive. I fell into such self-destructive patterns of, I'll stick it to my mom. I'll show her like exactly why she shouldn't have been in my life, and like exactly what kind of person she made me out to be, like consistently shifting the blame from understanding, or shifting my locus of entirety from accountability on any part to just on her part. And it wasn't until like I had spent so many years just being angry and turning into this person that I didn't want to be, until I realized that I was just repeating the same patterns in myself that I saw in my mom. And I was seeking acceptance in anybody and everybody, and I was doing things that I wasn't proud of, and I was putting myself and those that I cared about last in search of this acceptance. And it finally clicked for me one day that I had to accept an apology that I was never going to get, and I also had to give an apology that I was never going to be able to give. And every day I wake up wishing that I still had one more moment to just sit down and tell her I understand now. I understand that she was searching for acceptance. I understand that she was searching for someone to care about her and love her the way that she never had. And that's when I really came to terms with the fact that, like, it wasn't anger I was feeling, it was compassion for both of us. And it was that I didn't want to become this person that I saw my mom be, and then I became her. And it took that for me to fully understand, like, she was just as scared and alone as I was, and she didn't know how to express that, and she turned to the only safety that she knew, which was going back to the same thing, like, the things we know comfort us. And she continued to go back to the things that she knew because change is scary. And I made the choice to change. And as I said, I would go back every day just to have one more opportunity to tell her that I loved her and that it wasn't her fault, and I understand. So it's taken me a while, but I've come to the point of letting go of that resentment and looking at it through the lens of compassion and understanding that this wasn't her fault. She was doing what she had to do, and I was doing what I had to do. And unfortunately, we never will be able to meet at that crossroads of understanding.
That's a lot for a little kid to go through. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to feel that she chose somebody else. Now she was sick during this time, and is that why she chose this man? Maybe for financial reasons or security reasons? Do we know that?
I'm not sure about the financial reasons, but I definitely know it was for security reasons, because even before she met him, one of my, like, core memories was her, like, crying on the floor after a man broke up with her, and she didn't know I was behind her, but she kept repeating to herself, like, I don't want to die alone. And ultimately, like, she ended up dying alone with him at, like, the outside of her hospital room while I was, like, 2,000 miles away. And she got her worst fear came true. And it makes me so sad to know that.
What did she die of?
She had heart disease, or, like, she was born with a hole in the wall of her heart. So while they were replacing her pacemaker, she flatlined.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.